Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into something called the Billionaire operating system. And listen, this isn't just a list of habits or some life hacks. No, this is about a fundamental firmware rewrite for your brain, a total upgrade for how you think. Okay, so let's frame the big shift we're talking about. On one side, you've got the default programming most of us run on, linear execution. You put in 1 hour of work, you get 1 hour's worth of results back. Simple. But on the other side, that's the upgrade, exponential strategy. That's where 1 unit of effort can suddenly generate 10, 100, maybe even 1,000 units of results. We're talking about playing a completely different game. So here's the game plan for getting this installed. First, we're going to diagnose the old software, what we're calling the Factory Worker OS. Then we'll install 4 absolutely critical pillars: thinking in systems, creating leverage, finding asymmetry, and using a long-term vision. And finally, we'll see how it all clicks together to form your new, seriously upgraded operating system. All right, first things first, let's put our current software under the microscope. Because look, before you can upgrade, you've got to understand the limitations of the code you're already running, right? Think of this as the mental model we all inherited from the industrial age. It's reliable, sure, and it's super straightforward, but it has a hard cap. Your output is literally tied to your input, specifically your time. It's an OS that just chugs through tasks one by one, and when you run out of hours in the day, well, you're out of output. Frankly, it's an operating system that's designed to burn you out. So let's start the upgrade. Module number 1 is all about installing the mindset of an engineer. And this isn't just about solving a problem once, it's about building a machine that solves that problem forever on autopilot. And here's the crucial shift in focus. The old way looks at a single isolated task, I have to send this email. But the new way, it zooms out and asks, wait a minute, what's the system that's making me send this email over and over? And how can I build an automated loop that just handles it without me? You literally stop being the person doing the work and you become the person who designs the machine that does the work. Now, this whole systems thinking thing comes with 4 killer apps. First up, first principles. This forces you to just ignore how we've always done it and rebuild from the absolute basics. Second, second order thinking, which is like seeing the future. It trains you to see the ripple effects of your decisions. Then you've got the bottleneck, which shows you the one single place where your effort will have the biggest impact. And finally, inversion. This is a great mental cheat code. Instead of trying to be a genius, you just figure out all the ways you could fail, and then you just don't do those things. All right, let's get to our next module and see how this all builds on itself. Here, we graduate from being the engineer of a single machine to becoming the architect of an entire ecosystem. This is all about leverage, completely detaching your results from your effort. And this right here gets to the absolute heart of building wealth. The old OS has you on a hamster wheel. More time equals more money. But there's a ceiling to that, right? There are only so many hours in a day. The new OS is obsessed with finding leverage, tools that get you results without you having to be there. The whole idea is to plant a tree that grows fruit all by itself so your impact can grow exponentially while your actual work stays the same or maybe even goes down. Now, there are 4 main types of leverage. You've got the traditional ones, labor, that's other people working for you, and capital, money working for you. And both are incredibly powerful, but they require permission. You've got to convince someone to work for you or convince an investor to give you their money. But these 2 highlighted here, code and media, well, they're a whole different animal. This is the crazy revolution that we're all living through right now. Permissionless leverage. You literally don't need anyone's approval to write a piece of software or create a piece of content that can then be copied and sent to millions of people for basically 0 cost. These are assets that work for you around the clock, 24/7, even when you're fast asleep. So this becomes your new filter, your new acid test for basically everything you do. Before you start any new task, you have to stop and ask yourself this question. If the answer is no, if you have to manually do the thing again to get another result, then from the perspective of our new OS, that's a bug that needs to be fixed. The goal is to build it once and let it work for you forever. Moving on to Module 3. So we've built the system, we've found the fuel, now we're going to install the mindset of an investor. And I'm not talking about someone looking for safe bets. No, this is about hunting for opportunities with insane, wildly skewed payoffs. The key concept here is called convexity. See, the Factory Worker OS loves 50-50 odds. The upgraded OS couldn't care less about that. It's searching for bets where you risk a little, but the potential upside is massive and totally unknown. spending a weekend building a tiny app that has a 0.1% chance of going viral. You want to put yourself in situations where luck and randomness become your best friends, not something to be afraid of. And a really critical software patch here is learning to tell the difference between real risk and just volatility. Risk is what can take you out of the game for good, permanent loss, ruin. Volatility, on the other hand, that's just the emotional roller coaster you have to ride to get to those huge gains. The new OS trains you to stomach the bumps in the road in order to chase that sweet, sweet asymmetry. So how do you actually do this? Well, you use something called the barbell strategy. You structure everything just like this. You put 90% of your resources, your time, your money, into something ultra safe, something that protects you from getting wiped out. And then with that last 10%, you take these crazy calculated moonshots. That way, the absolute worst you can do is lose 10%, but your potential upside is limitless. And now for the final, and maybe the most powerful module of them all, the futurist's vision. This is all about escaping the tyranny of right now and learning to operate on a timeline of decades instead of days. This gives you a massive, almost unfair advantage called time horizon arbitrage. And why is that? Because pretty much the entire world is obsessed with the next quarter, the next week, or even the next 5 minutes. By simply being the person willing to make decisions that might look weird or even painful today, but will pay off huge in 10 years, you are playing a game that almost nobody else is even on the field for. A super practical tool for this is the 10-10-10 rule. For any big decision you have to make, you force yourself to think about the consequences in 10 minutes, then in 10 months, and then in 10 years. And your new OS is programmed to put a massive amount of weight on that 10-year outcome, even if it means feeling a little uncomfortable in the next 10 minutes. And to help you play this long game, you get 2 more killer tools. First, the regret minimization framework. This helps you beat that short-term fear by just fast-forwarding and asking what your 80-year-old self would want you to do. And the second is backcasting, which is like a planning superpower. Instead of trying to plan forward from today, you imagine your perfect 10-year future, and then you work backward from there to figure out exactly what you need to do today to make it happen. All right, deep breath. All 4 modules are installed, the system has been rebooted. So what does this new, fully integrated OS actually look like when it's up and running? See, these pillars aren't just separate tools, they're all interconnected. They form a perfect loop. Your long-term vision sets the destination. Your systems thinking builds the vehicle to get you there. Leverage provides the unlimited fuel for the engine, and your focus on asymmetry ensures the whole journey is profitable by keeping your risk tiny and your upside wide open. You see, this upgrade fundamentally changes your role in the world. You are no longer the factory worker on the assembly line, just trading your time for money. You are now the architect, the engineer, and the investor of the entire system. Which leaves us with just one final and really the most important question of all. Now that your OS upgrade is complete, what are you going to build?